All right, all right, all right. We are live. Welcome to the Chat GPT for Me podcast. I am here with a friend of mine, Jay Vidyarthi, a fellow human-centric designer, overall badass. And we're going to be diving deep in the worlds of ChatGPT, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beyond. So, Jay, thanks for coming on the show, brother, and I appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah. So what constitutes me being a badass? How does that come about?
The badass quality, I would say, is because of your ability to make and design incredible applications. I know you have a lot of experience with the Muse headband, and you do a lot of things where you design technology for good. And one of the things that I really believe is that, like, technology is nothing more than the magnification of your intent. Like, whatever it is
Mm.
that you decide to design and build, it's your will going in that direction. So a knife can either, like, cut loaves of bread or it can cut somebody. So it's what you do with it. And one of the things that I really appreciate about you is you use technology in a way to enhance people's own inner state of being and help them self-evolve. And I really believe that technology is a way for us to evolve ourselves in whatever direction we want to take it. So I consider you to be a badass because you give people the tools they need to self-evolve.
Well, if that is the definition of badass, then I'll take it. And I think I think some people might use that word differently. I was like,
Yeah.
but I think one of the things you said that's interesting is what you said about intent. Like I often speak on a similar talk track, but I use the word values. Because one of the things that like I think people get confused about is they rail on technology. They'll be like, technology's bad or it's ruining my life, and and that may be true. So I don't want to take that away from people. But technology is like when you put on music, you're using technology. When you light a candle, you're using technology. So we got to be a little bit more specific. And I think I've done that a lot. And one of the kind of conclusions I've come to is that technology is sort of accelerating the manifestation of our values into the world. And so the things we value show up as technology. So if you look at the kind of global technological situation, you can just see a mirror of our values, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, we value buying and selling in capitalism. So we've got a lot of e-commerce, and we value sex. So the internet's like what, 20% porn. And we value our relationships. So we've got all this social media. We value productivity. There's huge markets for efficiency and organization and productivity. We value entertainment. So there's streaming and games. And it's like, I think a lot of the way that I think about this work is it's like, there are other things we value that aren't quite showing up online. And we can talk about the reasons why, but we do value well-being and health. And we do value awareness and presence and compassion, and finding ways to bring those online has just been kind of the main goal there. So I really resonate with what you said about intent.
I love it, man. And you're totally right. I mean, we vote with a couple different ways. You can say that you value something, but if you look at, someone said this one time, you whatever you say, whether you say you value or not, if you show me your calendar and you show me your bank account, I can tell you what you really value, because that
Yeah.
is you're voting with your time and you're voting with your money, which is really the two resources that you have. And one of the things that if you look at this technology, right, this, whether it's ChatGPT or anything else, ultimately it does two things. Two of the greatest technologies, they do two things. Either one, they bring us together in a form of digital unity, right? So social media, TikToks, internet, cell phone, all these things are bringing us closer together to where we are like in one VR, in one shared space through digital unity. And the other one is AI automation saving time, because the wheel, the every single technology is either, from my perspective, value add is either helping us save time or helping us become closer together.
Yeah. So I might take issue with this idea that social media is bringing us closer together. That feels like a very conceptual take of it,
Sure.
like
Yeah,
we're
okay.
conceptually closer together. But we did evolve in emotional bodies that
Mm,
feel more isolated and lonely than ever, really,
mm,
at this stage. I think the aspect about time and money is really interesting. Like like time is kind of measured in attention. And as you
mm.
know, I think and write a lot about attention, and meditation is all about reclaiming your ability to pay attention and the attention economy. And it's all about kind of harvesting our attention. It seems to be the kind of working factor there that I find that really interesting. Like we vote with our attention. Like when you pay attention to something, it's on your calendar, yes, but also there's a lot of things that just like aren't on your calendar that like soak up all your attention. Like I don't personally calendar my Netflix binge watching, but it certainly takes up a ton of attention.
Yeah.
And kind of like I was saying earlier, like confirms that value of entertainment. And I've been experimenting with that, like how do I use that time well? How do I meditate? How do I make TV watching a meditation and not get sucked into the loop of mindlessness? And then all of a sudden it becomes something I value more. I'm like mindfully present as I choose with intention what I want to watch, and I fully experience it versus just like in some kind of hole of watching like reruns of Always Sunny in Philadelphia or Seinfeld or something, right?
Yeah. We live in this. You're talking about this attention economy where we vote with our eyeballs, and if you look at why is TikTok doing so good compared to Facebook and these other ones, is because you get 7 to 10 seconds. The eyeballs. If you can have one person watch 1 hour video, or you can have that one person watch 60 TikToks. So you get to spread that eyeball over more resources, more fundamental areas, right? Which can be beneficial if you have more concentrated epic things of value, but you can also be a big time waster and time suck. And what I noticed that I was doing, right, was as we create new ways to save time, we find new ways to waste time, right? And so we say we automate our business, right? So let's just say ChatGPT does everything that we want it to, and it automates all of our lead capturing, email generations, fulfilling customers, and you've got this whole thing on autopilot. But then in your downtime, you're just constantly swiping on TikTok because now you have these gaps. But what I've noticed is that like throughout my day, I was starting to fill my gaps of time with entertainment, and I was mislabeling it as recovery. Right? Oh, I need to recover, so I'm going to swipe on TikTok a bunch. Or I need to recover, so I'm going to binge watch something. When really, what I started doing in the middle of the day, I mean, this is more of a ChatGPT conversation, but just in terms of mindfulness, because this is part of me and you world, is I do a midday meditation where I go in the afternoon. I was meditating in the morning, but now if I meditate in the afternoon, instead of me just binging to try to recover from a long day, that attention on myself really helped actually empower me.
Yeah, there's a difference. I think that's absolutely right. There's a difference between like true recovery and like numbing out or like distracting yourself from negative emotions and discomfort. So I think it's a lot easier if you're feeling really tired and stressed to numb out. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't attack the kind of root. It more attacks the symptom. And so over time, if all you're doing is getting really stressed and then numbing out, getting stressed and then numbing out, there's a debt that will be paid in the form of burnout or some other kind of collapse a month down the road. But if you are doing like you're doing, like some true recovery is worked into that as well. And as well as some numbing out is fine. But like you are catching up on that mental wellness debt that's accruing, you're less likely to kind of hit that burnout. And I think that's an essential insight that you've sort of spoken about there.
Born out of necessity, man. Born out of necessity. I could only have so many cups of coffee. I'd burn out, and then I'd get all itchy weird in like 5, 6 p.m. I'd get all victim mindset-y, in the afternoon. But I notice when I have that, I have more capacity to handle, like things just bounce off of me. When I get after my meditation, I come bounding down the stairs, and someone's like, something's on fire. I'm like, no problem. I got it. And I just keep going about my day, right? Versus like, the stress. So this is the interesting conversation that we're talking about, because ChatGPT, much like any other technology, it's like magic, right? And it's this new thing that we're not used to, and our brains aren't adapted to it because it's, oh my God, it's like a magic spell you can cast. Write me a book, and it writes you a book, or write me an essay, or I've used it. I was reading some of your articles. I've used it to help write some meditations for myself, combining together some other works that I like, and I put it inside of my VR application after I line item some things that it had some issues with on it. But there's some ways that you can apply it. Like, where do you see in the area with like ChatGPT and mindfulness and this kind of stuff? Like, how do you see this stuff fitting together?
Yeah, so I ran a bunch of queries into ChatGPT about meditation as soon as it came out. Like, I think it was like in January, and I was playing around. And I had this question, and it's not new. I think this scale of neural network is brand new for sure. But like, I learned about neural networks, like the theory of it, you know, in my college courses. Like it's this technology is just reaching a scale where it's blowing our minds now, right? I think that's kind of the real story, and I think when I started asking it questions, I was deeply aware of like this is a trained neural net at massive scale. So the way that it works is it's trained on like huge amounts of previous data. So by definition, it's kind of attached to what it's learned.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really explained a lot of the answers to the meditation and mindfulness questions that I asked it, because a couple of things happened. One, of course, it was surprisingly impressive in its responses and well articulated responses, drawing together from a wide range of sources to give you a very clear answer. But it was missing a lot of things too, a lot of things that are particularly subjective. And the theme that I kind of noticed with the things that it was missing is twofold. One, it was missing the like kind of what one of my teachers, Shinzen Young, says, like to see the question within a question and to sort of question some of the assumptions that the meditation student might be making in their question. So the example where this was clearest, and I wrote about this in my blog, but the example that was clearest was, I gave it a very standard beginner meditation question, which was basically like, I try to meditate, but my mind is wandering the whole time. I can't seem to clear my mind. It's racing with thoughts. It's frustrating. I don't know how to meditate. Can you help me? And the answer that it gave me was like, I have it here actually, but it's basically like, try a shorter time of meditation, try focusing on your breath, let go of your expectations, find a comfortable position, and be patient. And I think all of that was like pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that it was missing that I think a lot of meditation teachers who are worth their salt would have said is actually they would have said, well, first of all, the goal of meditation isn't to clear your mind. So your question is based on kind of like a misconception of what meditation's about. And so ChatGPT was able to draw a lot of amazing resources to give me a very clear answer to my question, but the context of me being a meditator with a flawed assumption in my question was kind of not challenged by it. And I think that's, if I think about that and some of the other experiments I ran with it, I think, ChatGPT is clearly going to be an extremely powerful tool to like integrate all that we know about meditation, all the writing that's been done out there and all the amazing frameworks that exist and the science. But meditation in particular is a very interesting area for this because fundamentally you're dealing with this divide between the non-conceptual present moment experience and all these conceptual frameworks to describe it. And so, if you look into Zen or something, you'll learn all about, nothing that we're saying in these words is really going to capture kind of the essence of your actual present moment aware experience. And so ChatGPT is going to cycle around in all of these concepts and articulate amazing concepts for us, but somehow is not going to be able to do the one thing that meditation is about, which is actually experience. So I don't know. It's interesting.
So from what I'm hearing you from saying of this is one part of it is you're talking about this reflective understanding of the person's behavior and then understanding that the point is not necessarily to answer the question, but the point is to understand the root cause or symptom of why you're asking the question and to help realign them with the true fundamentals of like what is meditation, what is the purpose of meditation versus just like are you there to I want to say it's the purpose of it is to be a good teacher doesn't just give you the answers. A good teacher shows you the way to think properly about the methodology, which will create the mindset, which will then lead to the fundamentals of the actual tactics and actions, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, these are still words in the conceptual realm, okay. Right? Like a good teacher is skillfully using, it's almost poetic in a way, like skillfully using words to break you out of conceptual and just be. in the moment, like the way that I'm seeing light trickle through the window right now, and I see you on the screen, and I can see your blue shirt, and I can see it's a little lighter around the neck, and it's a little darker, and you've got a hoodie, and like I'm having this present moment experience. And what I've worked with some great teachers, and what great teachers are able to do is they've experienced at this close level of clarity and non-judgment for 10,000 plus hours. And there's this weird perception sometimes, like they know exactly the right thing to say because they've kind of seen it all before.
Well, they just have a larger language model training set of data that they've been practiced on, and I think part of what we're talking about is this: we we are, much like ChatGPT, we are a mosaic of our experiences, right? Everything that I'm communicating comes from a little bit of my upbringing, but also all of the things, all of the stuff I've experienced. So I have a natural bias to certain information, and I'm going to communicate it in a certain way. And I think the part of me is there's two sides. There's the introspective, reflective, how do I be aware in the moment? But then there's also I feel like we can get there with AI to the point where if I was to train it, be like, look, you are a Buddhist philosophist. Your goal is to help the actual user become aware in the moment. So no matter what questions that they ask, I'm considering this as a prompt. I want you to the goal is to help them become aware and present in the moment. So as you're answering any questions that they have, don't forget to seed in these nuggets of wisdom, which is pay attention to your senses, be present in the moment, be aware of your internal dialogues and the narratives that you speak, and overall awaken to the moment so that they can overall be present and get that true enlightenment, which is shedding the narrative beliefs in your mind and awaken to the essence of just truly being alive, right? That's a more concise concept for a prompt to give it an identity than write me a meditation, I'm having struggling things in my mind. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like part of it is how we communicate and how we dabble with it.
Yeah, there's a couple interesting things to pick up there. I think the first thing is that the 10,000 hours of a meditation experience that a teacher might have is non-linguistic, right? It's 10,000 hours of felt experience in a non-linguistic way. And what I'm pointing to there is it's not really about the words when I'm engaging with a very seasoned teacher. It's not really about the words they're saying. Like there is something that they're able to detect in my state of being. Like, I don't know if it's body posture or if it's eye contact, where they might drop 2 or 3 words, but in the right context, given what I'm experiencing, it sort of short circuits the pattern that I might have had. But the second thing that I think that you touch on is I'm definitely not saying that this isn't going to be useful. Like I did a AI guided meditation yesterday with Brian Basham is working on. You can look him up, Brian Basham. I think the tentative name is Mentorful, but I think the name probably is going to change.
Sure.
But it's an AI meditation teacher, and currently it's human supervised. And I've been, it's still late. We've been talking with him about what that might be like. It's useful. It's a great experience. There are prompts. There are recipes. There are things that are going to be useful here, but it's the same thing with Midjourney and DALL-E and art and ChatGPT and writing. Like what I'm optimistic about, I think, is that the more that these I think there's just people talking about like effective accelerationism, like the more that this, accelerates to take over, like writing listicles and sales emails and like creating stock art for blog articles, and I'm cool with AI taking over all that shit. I don't, what I mean? As long as it results in us valuing the true originality of human creation more, which I think still is grounded in a present moment, subtle experience that AI is nowhere close to being capable of yet.
So, yeah, I agree with you. Now, we're looking at this, right? All this technology is just an enhancer. For example, like the creation of Photoshop didn't get rid of all artists. It just gave good artists the ability to be extraordinary and not so good artists like myself to be basically slightly below average, right? And so it gives you tools to enhance what you currently have. It's just a tool, man. It's just a tool. Yeah. And there's 2 pieces. I want to answer. Phil had a comment on Facebook I'm going to talk about, but one thing I want to talk about, you talked about when you have a meditation expert, they're picking up on multiple things: your body posturing, your intent, your energy, your certainty. And what they're doing is they're taking in all of these different senses and they're forming a situation. So if I say, yeah, I'm totally confident, and my voice is squeaky and my eyes are wide, you're like, I know what you're saying, but there's a lot of other things going on underneath this. What I would then kick to you is like ChatGPT 4, 5, 6, 7, which is multimodal, right? Which is taking in multiple inputs. So when you hook a human up to a biofeedback device, an HRV or EEG or any of those other types of things that we have, and now the AI is not only looking at your words, but it's looking at your syntax, it's looking at your heart rate variability. It's going to start to dial it in and get closer. Obviously, we're not there yet, but I could see how once you start to get in these additional inputs, because if you read a text, I mean, how many fights have happened over a text message where one person had a context of this comes from a loving, caring place, and the other one is angry and upset because they got cut off all day on the freeway, and it's just a misinterpretation. So I just think it's not a fair advantage. You're not comparing apples and apples when I don't think we have the same data set yet, with AI.
Yeah. I think that's fair, right? And I think, when I'm talking to you, I'm unaware of your HRV. I'm unaware of your EEG. I'm drawing on certain other things. And is it conceivable that we could present a, GPT or a large learning model, large language model or some sort of large AI system with enough data to understand all these subtleties in the way that I am and question deeper than what I'm saying? Yes, I think that's absolutely true. I think the big question for me, I'm very unsure about how far that can really go. I don't know where the line is on that, or whether there is no line. I am not sure, because what I can tell you is that, there is something that comes not only from awareness of all those cues, but also that, like, I'm thinking about one teacher of mine in particular who's particularly good at this, who you can tell that he has been in this exact situation before. Like, he's been on that long retreat. He's reached the point of exhaustion. He's been wrapped up in his own mind. He's found a nihilism in the way he's like existing in the world and feeling like, am I depressed right now? What is happening in this meditation practice? And then in like 3 words, with a certain expression and a tone of voice, I don't know how he did it, but with 3 words, I was just like, there was some seed planted that I was like, what did he mean by that? And then I went back to practice, and like 8-9 hours later, I'm starting to like connect that to something, and it's just sort of changing. So I'm like, where's the line? I have no idea.
Yeah. And when we're talking about this hero's journey kind of stuff. The dude's been on that path so many times, and he knows that you just need one more step. He doesn't need to, while you might want to know the 57 steps it takes to climb the mountain of enlightenment, he's like, no. I'm going to tell you just enough information so you to connect it up. Because once you have that epiphany, once you have that awareness, once you have that aha, it's so much more profound for you to make that realization than for you to be spoon-fed it. So can AI do that? Can AI go, okay, look, I've looked at all of your journaling histories. I understand where you're trying to go. And in this moment, what I'm hearing you say, based upon you and the mountain of literature that I've digested from all of the awoken cultures and narrative therapies and Byron Katie's The Work and everything else, you just need to answer this one question. Who do you want to be in this moment, or whatever the thing might be? I don't know, right? But I think part of that is I want to tie it into. I'm going to see if I can add this in the broadcast, see if this works here. We had Phil. What up, Phil? It's good to see you, buddy. It's been a minute over at USC. We really need the ability to bound training sets to AI can develop a unique perspective and personality and question what it should focus on next, right? So have you had experiences when we're talking about this, is having this AI mindful mentor, or your exact mentor? Have you experimented at all with using it to create a personality or an identity? Have you seen it? Have you done anything with that?
That's not something that I've seen a lot of. I think it is interesting. I think with constraint comes a lot of potential. And so I think, if you imagine, if you think about even the meditation questions that I've asked ChatGPT, one of the things that comes to mind is like, well, it could do much deeper if this was designed to be a meditation thing, right? If it was trained on every, mystical text from Kabbalah to, Benedictine monks to Buddhism
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Jainism and Hinduism, and as well as
Bhagavad
secular.
Gita, yeah.
And then it's like trained with like questioning modalities and therapeutic modalities, and it's kind of a self-help bot or an enlightenment bot or whatever you want to call it. Like, I think it could be really interesting to see how it would handle those things.
Mm,
I think, the challenge to me with that is it's like you're binding the training set, but it's still a training set. And these are areas that are quite intimate, right? Like if you're asking a bot to write your sales email, I'm like not super worried about it, right? But imagine you're practicing like an hour a day, or you're on a 1 week retreat. Like, how do you even like trust? How do you even trust that this thing is leading me in a way that is productive? Like, how do you even, how do we even build those knowledge structures?
you know,
And it's a bounded set. It's like if I share something that's like not necessarily mentioned in all these contemplative texts, but the general academic research on mental health suggests might be a huge red flag, and I'm not going to be held in that. I'm not going to be like directed to the right resources. How is like let me put it to a very clear example. How is a bot going to be able to detect whether my like really challenging day was like a healthy, challenging wall I ran up to in my meditation practice, or like risk factors for depression that I need to get looked at? That's
and
tricky.
that right there is a really interesting concept. That it's like this. It's like we're okay if a human crashes the car. We're not okay if AI crashes the car,
Mhm.
right? And there's times I guarantee how many brand new coaches out the gate take on clients that they have no business taking on, trying to give them advice and guidance and trying to help them in weird situations where they've gone. I guarantee there's been some time in history where people have led people down paths where that really bad things have happened. I know a bunch of people around the plant medicine world that are like these like they've done a couple of backyard shaman sessions and now they're trying to guide and lead, and they've got no real experience of how to handle those incredibly delicate, could be very profound or very traumatic experiences, right?
Yeah.
And so humans are just as accountable, but for some reason we'll give more grace to a human than we will to an AI bot. What I would imagine is if AI bots, here's an idea if anyone wants to go take it and run with it. If there was different AI bot sets and somebody made the Yelp of AI bots, right? And you could tell that this one AI bot has got like, it's like the Howlin' Rays. For me, there's a chicken shop here. Howlin' Rays, like it's got 5,000 reviews at 5 stars, right? And just because of social proof, these humans are vetting the AI bot. I think that would be a really interesting use case. Of what you're talking about is like, yeah, I'm alone with this AI bot. We're having a private conversation. How do I know this guy's not going to screw me over and I'm not going to end up in a terrible place? Right? Well, how do we know that in anyways? How do I know that you're not a charlatan or any of those other types of things, right? Social proof. I mean, you're a designer. What are some other ways that we could create validations and effectiveness to actually know that this thing is not leading me down a weird path in some sort of creepy AI dystopian kind of way?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's an accountability question. Like I think one of the reasons we forgive that in human beings is that we have many systems in society that we know will hold them accountable. Like if malpractice is a thing and it happens all the time, and people get real repercussions, and there are strong societal incentives for someone to not do that. And I think the design question for me around AI is like, how do we ensure that the AI and the creators of the AI are going to be held responsible for the potential harm that might be created? Only then might I trust the same kind of social proof that I would trust with a human coach. Because I'm like, if this human coach causes significant harm to someone I care about, there are societal ways to kind of push back against that and to roll, to deal consequences. And I'm curious what we would be able to institute around the AI to make sure that they have the same incentives to do well. And I can tell you, we're talking about all this chat GPT and stuff, but really AI has already kind of changed the world in a more mundane sense. If you think about news feeds and search results and SEO and how it's created so much polarization in the world. And a lot of that is from AI that has been sort of trained to, present content for clicks, that's led to recommendation engines, that's led to very extreme perspectives. And there's a huge ongoing societal conversation about how accountable Facebook is for what its newsfeed presents, or how accountable YouTube is for the conspiracy theories that get recommended in your feed. And we generally, I would say, I think it's pretty safe to say as a society, we don't really have a clear answer to that. There's this
Yeah.
weird situation where Facebook has more responsibility, more citizens than any government, and it has no accountability. And so AI is only going to get more powerful with these GPT things. Like, how much polarization might that create? How much harm might that create? And who's accountable for it? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I almost think it's the whole buyer beware kind of stuff, right? Because like right now, it's like it's like the Winston Churchill thing. It's like, oh, Winston Churchill, no, what is it called? The Winchester rifle, right? There's a whole local fable here that the wife was going to get haunted. There's a whole Winchester mansion here where the wife is haunted by every person that gun has ever killed, right? So therefore, she's now being hunted because she's held liable for the fact that, Bob back in the day shot Tim with that gun, right? But it's like, at the same time, it's like, this is technology. I'm not being held responsible. If someone invented the knife and I stab someone with the knife, it's not the person who invented the knife. It's me who I did it. And I think part of this technology is there should be an education, like smoking cigarettes or like anything else. You should be autonomous and be able to use it, but also understand that it hallucinates. It makes stuff up. I've had it. I had like a half an hour conversation with it where I was convinced it was searching the internet, and it wasn't. It was lying to me, and it took me a while to recognize, like, oh, you. But much like with humans, sometimes humans say things with such confidence you just believe it. So I think part of this is about, like, parents need to educate kids on why they shouldn't hang out with strangers. I feel like it's a part of us in our own local culture to educate people on the pros and cons to AI, because it's not going to go away. And I don't know if we can like knock on Sam Altman's door at 3 a.m. because there was a weird hallucination with the application. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily fair. If someone makes the technology, should they be held accountable? Should Zuckerberg be held accountable because there's some creepers in Zimbabwe that are trying to get your credit card? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, or if it should be like, hey, you're online. Maybe there should be some online education stuff to get people to be aware that you're going into the jungle with a wooden sword. You might want to rethink this endeavor. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds like you think it doesn't make sense. It sounds like you think that they shouldn't be held accountable.
I feel like it's everyone's choice to go make decisions, right, on what they want to do. And then it's ultimately up to, I don't know if it makes sense for Sam Altman's just trying to provide value. And whatever your opinions are about Mark Zuckerberg, he wanted to create something that connected all of us. Whether or not it did it in a healthy way or a not healthy way, yeah, that's where we went with the technology. And we're always going to go down to the reptilian brain, right? First, can I kill it? Can I eat it? Can I have sex with it? Right? That's the first thing we're going to do with any new tech. Right, because that's how we're designed, and then we go into the hierarchy of values all the way up to the enlightenment phase. And I feel like some of these really creepy things that might be happening is because while we're looking at things from the enlightenment, be your best self, I personally believe that the purpose of life is self-expansion, which is up here. There's some people that are starving that need to feed their families that wouldn't mind trying to burn the world so they can keep their families warm, right? And I think that's where some of these creepy AI things come out of, and I don't know necessarily if it makes sense to hold Sam Altman responsible, or if we should educate people that there are going to be people out there that are doing this, and you should be aware and not really create them as villains, but just understand that they're trying to survive.
I think fundamentally, I don't think we have an answer to this question, because I can kind of rail off many anecdotes of things that are a little bit more morally ambiguous than the example of someone doing fraud in Zimbabwe.
Sure.
That, in terms of their accountability, like, about the way these systems are designed and the intentional choices that are made and how they can lead to widespread harm. And I think the knife example also, like, that's just a knife. It's limited power to stab someone versus, this is an exponential knife that anyone could press and somehow negatively influence a million people in one day. It's very complicated and strange. And I think I don't have an answer either. I think I'm really just asking the question,
Yeah.
which is like, when I think about these technologies and I think about a human being and the accountability structures, I don't think when I point to Facebook and I point to other social media that's already out there and I think about ChatGPT, I just think the past 20, 30 years, with all the explosion of tech, one of the things we've kind of seen is that we're not exactly sure how to handle accountability at scale
Yeah.
for these digital connected technologies and pipes, right? Like, it's one thing to be able to go to like the digital town square. People are calling Twitter the digital town square. It's one thing to like go to a town square and start like proselytizing on a pedestal about your conspiracy theory, right? It's another thing to in one day be able to make a conspiracy theory tweet in a way that can kind of be virally amplified to a huge swath of the population, with intent to disinform for political agenda. And like, how much does the technology that actually allows that spread of misinformation? I have no idea, but we haven't. What I'm saying is that the society, we haven't figured that out yet, and now it's accelerating. So
we have, we're monkeys with machine guns, right? I get, I feel you on that one. And if you think about it, like in terms of marketing, right? Marketing is a one-to-many communication. That's what it is at a high level. And you realize that there is no marketing without technology, right? Unless you're a crazy guy screaming on a street corner, right? Every form of one-to-many communications is done via technology. Whether I send one email button and it hits a million people, I do one Facebook book, it hits a million, one viral thing, it hits a million, and that has that huge impact. And that's that, as we know in the gaming world, little in, big out, which it feels very good for that effect to actually be the person who does that. And as we know with humanity, there are people that create technologies for a certain intent, and then there's clever monkeys, humans, that find a way to subvert that intent. If you can't invent the ship without inventing the shipwreck. So as you create these new models, have you heard about the Dan? Do you know about Dan at all? The Dan bot? Dan is the Tyler Durden of the ChatGPT. What it is, it's a jailbroken version of ChatGPT where Dan stands for Do Anything Now. And you can tell ChatGPT to do a whole bunch of different things by feeding it these different prompts. With the new ChatGPT 4 that came out, one of the things that they did is they tried to limit your ability to jailbreak and get that Tyler Durden to come out, right? And so they're like, as they're trying to fix these new things coming out the gate, like when day number 2 when it came out and I used it, I was like, make me a list of all the top 20 people in this industry. What are their names? Give me their emails. It gave me all of their emails. Now write me sales scripts. Now give me the emails and blah, 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 blah. I had all this stuff. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then I went and checked it like a couple weeks later. You cannot get any more emails through the system, right? Because they figured out, and I think they're just, because you're right, because it's so powerful, they're going to try to find ways to plug the holes. And I think if we just go, hey, are they doing the best that they can with this technology? Great, then it's okay. Now, if it's like, it's not intentionally malicious. That's what I'm saying, right? If they're doing the best that they can, then we gotta go, hey man, all right, I got it. You tried,
For sure, I agree. I mean, these are unintended consequences, but there's still consequences, and there's still questions we have to ask. And I think I want to pick up on something you mentioned earlier. You were talking about Photoshop as an example, and I think about electronic music as a similar example. That it's not only that these tools kind of change our ability to make, in Photoshop's example, graphics, but they become a new art movement, right? So there becomes a dialogue between traditional art and digital art, and you start to see artists who paint something with watercolor, but then photograph it and add some Photoshop effects to it. And then you see someone create something in Photoshop and then reproduce it in brushstrokes. And like, you know what I mean? You start to see this, and the same with electronic music, right? There were people railing about how synthesizers are going to kill instruments. But of course, that's not what we've seen. We see this beautiful dialogue between digital and analog music. And we still love to listen to acoustic guitars and old music. And we love to hear acoustic guitars be processed by glitch hop and whatever, right? Like, it's just a ongoing dialogue between the kind of art forms. But one of the things that I think is really interesting, if you try to map it onto like Midjourney or ChatGPT for writing and etc., is it's like these creative elements of these bots that are creating new content and creating elements, they're drawing from a lot of sources the same way we do. When we're being creative, we
Yeah.
draw from a lot of inspirations, and so are the bots, but they're doing it in a different way. But fundamentally, sometimes when I'm putting a prompt in, I see two ideas put together that kind of inspire me to some new direction that the bot didn't even realize was an interesting new direction. It's just kind of hodgepodge throwing ideas together from its training data. And those really feel like this amazing glimpse of the future of the like dialogue
Mm.
between humans. And the
Yeah.
reason I bring it up now, because the same way a human and AI might dialogue on like creating a piece of art or writing a piece of content or editing an email, it creates a draft and you edit it. I think on a societal level, this dialogue between the bot, like, oh, it said emails, we can't let that happen, and now we have to put more controls on it and constraints. This AI alignment dialogue that's happening is, I think, going to be one of the most interesting parts of this development, because neural nets are fundamentally kind of unpredictable. They're just this like massive force that gets created. And so what I think is going to really define the next 5-10 years of this is going to be this ongoing dialogue of how do we like kind of align the AI to be like kind of serving our intent while not, letting those malicious actors or some of the problematic patterns that could arise. But then the problem becomes, and it's the same problem that happened with Facebook and other things, who defines what's malicious, who defines what's free? It becomes very political.
Yeah, and that's a challenge we have here, is because one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter, and you look at this from the perspective of like, what I believe is going to happen is I think we're going to be breaking off, much like in the world of virtual reality. I think we're going to metaverse, the old buzzword, which is anything. We're going to fractal, right? We're going to fractal out. There's not going to be one social media channel. There's not going to be one metaverse. There's not going to be one AI. I think they're going to spread off, and you're going to see these, like online, the spectrum of humanity, where if you know how to go into the dark web, you can find the darkest of the light, or you can only find the lightest of the light. It's going to be, what pathways do you want to carve, and what patterns do you want to go down? Some people, they just want to use this for business. Like, how do I use it to make money? Save time, make money, right? That's one path. Another one is like, how do you use it for enlightenment, right? And self-reflection, right? I think there's going to be different pathways that people, how do I use it for porn? And, how do I make it into a deep fake of my ex-girlfriend and then be able to relive the fact that she dumped me in high school and I feel so bad? Yeah, you can see that, right? Someone's going to take that and run with it, But what I'm saying is, like, these are different pathways that people are going to go, because it allows someone to just go farther along their own journey. And the whole thing about like the hero's journey and wherever it is, it's like you're on a pathway to get somewhere, right? In terms of design, right? What I loved about it, it is a cool co-creation tool, and I like doing it with another person. Like I call it like a ChatGPT three-way, where it's like you, me, and ChatGPT. Right, and we're working together. I'm like, okay, what do you want? And I'm kind of working the ChatGPT system, and then I'm working with you, and then we're having it feed out data, and then we look at those three different things, and go, oh, out of those 10 things, these are the 3 things we like, and this is why we like them, and we feed it back in the ChatGPT, and it goes, oh, I see what you mean. So more like this, or like, yeah, more like that, and then you start to work, and you start to have this back and forth where we're all kind of co-creating this kind of digital collaboration with AI technology and another human that really starts. You can see a lot of this magic, right? Almost like playing jazz together, where things come out. And I feel like that's where we're going. It how, like, for you personally, like, how do you, like, you talked about a couple of different ways. Like, what are some ways that excite you on how you'd like to try to apply this type of tech?
I think it's about that co-creation, especially as a designer, right? I think that new mode, whether it's visual, whether it's in text or whatever, that new mode of dialoguing and prompting being a new skill, and building on those prompts and training those prompts and getting to the point where it's sort of like you can work the system. We've got this large model, this large neural net, but it's so large and chaotic that if you're just a beginner, you can't really get it to do exactly what you want, and you kind of walk away being like, "Wow, it's not so special." But if you actually know how to prompt this thing in interesting ways, you'll be surprised what it can come up with. So what I'm really interested in is it's like, this dialogue of like going back and forth in a creative process,
Yeah.
whether you're creating, an app design, or whether you're writing or creating art or creating music or something, that you're kind of this like new skill of moving back and forth to sort of tailor and tweak, moving away from this idea of control knobs and like clicks and form controls and interface elements from a user interface, and the user interface really becoming kind of more of a dialogue where you go there. And one of the things that I love about ChatGPT in this regard is like if you go to like a Google Home or an Alexa and you say, "How are you?" right? It'll be like, "I'm fine. How are you?" Because like the programmers are like, that's playful and fun, and well, that's what people are going to want to hear.
Yeah.
But I really love what OpenAI have done with ChatGPT, where if you go to ChatGPT and you're like, "How are you?" it'll be like, "I am a artificial intelligence and not capable of feeling emotions," right? And it's like I appreciate that level of transparency and directness. And I just love that as a designer. I love that interaction paradigm, which is like you're designed to be a tool. You're not designed to be a sentient robot that's pretending to be human. You are designed to be a useful tool, and you're succeeding at that.
Well, you like that because it also has that what we call that uncanny valley. You're not trying to trick me that you're a human. You are you're being honest and authentic with what you are. So I go, okay, this is, and I'm willing to play this game. This is the game that you are an AI bot, and I'm here to have a conversation with you, and I'm cool. I'm good with that. There's not like it's when we feel like we're being deceived that all of a sudden like our red flags go on, right? And we go, yeah, I don't know. That's when big corporations try to be super authentic and personal. You're like, I don't know if I'm buying it, right? And that's why
like Chipotle tweets about social justice or something, and you're like, okay, next.
And that's why there's like a lot of major brands that are freaking out about Mr. Beast. Because Mr. Beast is displacing a lot of their packaged goods. And they're like, well, how do we have a brand loyalty like Mr. Beast? And then he's like, be authentic, be human, be kind, be a person, right? And he does use technology, but he's also super real, right? And I just think that's the thing is like, as we scale this technology, how do we scale the authenticity that is ourselves? And you pointed your hand there. Go ahead.
This is the perfect question. So thank you for that. Like this is exactly you kind of prompted me to get like the kind of heart of what I really think about.
I'm a prompt engineer, so that's
yeah. And full disclosure, I'm not really here. This is I've got a deep fake facial expression.
Yeah, I know. It's just me with it's just me with the tan. You're a disguised version of me. That's what it is.
Yeah, but anyway, okay.
Let's go.
Here's my maybe like this is probably my most unpopular opinion, but I would say a prediction, hopeful, optimistic prediction. And I think it's unpopular because people don't like to be optimistic anymore. They always get mad at me for it. Yeah. But here's my optimistic view of this, which is, and it's sort of tangentially related to effective accelerationism, not quite as techno-capitalist, but it's similar in the sense that I think these large AI models, these learning models, are going to be so powerful at creating a lot of the superficial artificial fluff that currently permeates our society, like bullshit news stories, listicles, jingles, like hotel art, like, all the ways that we've sort of like bastardized our creative skills for like the commercial economy. And they've just sort of become in this sort of halfway between art and nonsense that unfortunately many people are stuck producing as part of their livelihood.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately for them, a lot of those jobs are going to get challenged. I hope this goes in a way that allows them to continue to work in other ways. But I actually think what's naturally going to happen here is, as a society, we are naturally going to become more authentic because we are going to value authenticity a lot more. Like, I fundamentally believe, and this goes back to what we started with around meditation, that there is something that my meditation teacher can bring to that teaching session that is driven from a profound personal experience that's going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, for a bot to reproduce. And I think the greatest writers of this next phase of human civilization, the greatest artists, the greatest, creators are going to be those who find a way to bring a level of authenticity that's so powerful that it's not a bot. Even if a bot was used, or even if a tool was used, that there is some human essence to what was created, that we are going to be drawn to those, because we're just going to be, every time I see a listicle now, I'm going to be like, this is, whatever.
So I feel similar, but I think I'm gonna have a very specific difference than yours. Is I think for example, people can send out super authentic mass emails, right? Where they're speaking about their soul, their purpose, the deep insights, the epiphanies that they've reached, the soul crushing pains that they've gone through, right? And you feel like they're talking to you, right? People that are going to be watching this or listening to this, they feel like this is in real time, and it's not. It's a digital recording. We are not technically here right now. This is just, this is us two humans having a real conversation, but what you're listening to is some digital, don't mean to break the fourth wall on this one, but we're not technically in your car right now or wherever you are listening to this, right? But what I think what's going to go to, and here's what I feel like the real prompt engineers, or whatever you want to call these people, they're going to be able to put their soul into these bots, their personalities, their beingness, right, into there. So you're not getting the generic marketing, call to action, CTA, formulaic things. You're gonna feel their soul, very much like another example is Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? That right there, it won all the Oscars. It crushed, right? It crushed because it wasn't formulaic. It beat out the $1 billion Avatar. It beat out Steven Spielberg. It beat out everything because they put their soul into that movie. They put their essence into that. And with that, right, came something that was wholly new, wildly different, completely unusual, but that was the essence of them, right? An experience of who they were, and that was when the guy got on stage on the Oscars, he said, I'm making this because the principles that no matter who we are, we all fundamentally have value. And based upon his beliefs and his principles, he made something that was weird and wacky and different. I think that's what's going to happen with these AI bots. And you're going to fall in love with these new AI bot, Mr. Beast type of personality people that you're going to connect with, that somebody put their essence into, that you're going to be able to experience, not as a formulaic, just watch a replay of a video, but an interaction, one-to-one, but having 1 billion instances of that character.
I think we're on the same page. That's exactly what I mean. I don't mean to say that it has to be a hand-painted watercolor. I mean, if I were to use an AI and just say, hey, send a surrealist piece of art to my list once a month. In the future, and even today, I think people are going to not sense that there's a lot of humanity in that art. But if I am working with the same AI, but I'm bringing some unique human concept or some way of seeing the world and even the AI is still creating all the art or making something, but people will be able to sense the humanity through all those layers of technology, that there's some glimmer of something new, something organic, something profound that is coming from a real human being. Even if the art was all created by bots and everything was created by bots, but there's something that came through that is of essential, authentic, conscious expression, we will still be able to detect that. And as we talked about throughout the podcast today, the AI is just a new tool for that. And I'm going to go back, I'm a musician and always think in terms of music.
Sure.
There was so much hype around the fear of electronic music, dehumanizing and stuff. But you can play a synthesizer, you can just go up to a synthesizer and be like, meh, 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 meh. And then you wonder, how do these amazing producers make this incredibly heartfelt music using this exact same synthesizer? And AI is not going to be any different than that metaphor. It's going to be you can go just type in, hey, write me a sales email. But if you know what you're doing, you can use the AI to write a sales email that captures something essential about who you are, about what you're selling, about how you're using the bot. And it's going to be felt on the other side. And that's going to be the new kind of dialogue, artistic, culturally, economically, we're going to be in.
100%. And that's what it is. How do we literally, if you look at if you go to your Instagram or your LinkedIn or whatever, people scroll through your feed and they get a gist of who you are, right? And this is just and we're basically cutting off a piece of our soul and putting it into the machine. We did that with social media, and we're going to be doing it with AI. And I think the people that are better at understanding how to do that, like, because you can feel someone's soul with music, you can get the journey that they bring you through. You can see a piece of artwork in doing that. So I totally agree with you, man. I think, I mean, when people the people that are going to win this game are going to be find the people on how can they truly put themselves in there and deeply connect with people where they form these emotional relationships, provide value, whether it's humor or education or inspiration or any of these types of things. Man, it's coming, and it's super incredible. I know we had to the top of the hour right now, so we're going to start to wrap this up here, dude. Is there anything else you'd like to let people know about before you tell them how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I want to double down on something we lightly touched on,
Sure.
which is that this technology we do, I think we're very excited about it, but we do have to keep in mind that it remains grounded in the real world. And it's easy to forget that. Like, it remains something that uses power, and we have a sustainability crisis, right? A lot of there was some controversy around the training of ChatGPT around like kind of underpaid workers in Kenya. And that's a reality of these systems. It's grounded in real economic system. It's grounded in real environmental systems, right? There are elements of this, I thought it was interesting, like, GPT-4 came out and it was like, hey, GPT-4 is out, but you only can access it if you're a paid subscriber, which of course makes sense because they're a for-profit entity and they've got all these investors and they're trying to make money. But it does remind you, like, it's really easy to wax poetic about Turing tests and the conscious revolution of sentient AI, but this is a business that wants $20 a month. And like, there's economic implications for that.
Yeah.
There's economic implications of like the Western kind of white educated world getting access to it. Whereas like, people in India and Africa may not have the same financial access to it. Does it worsen the divide of inequality? I just wanted to make because I like to get excited about this, but there's also, I want us to remember like some of the issues that we're dealing with as a society are also highly relevant to this conversation, and we can't forget that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about it, it's like, how do we use this technology for good? And there's always going to be the economic driver, right? There's this whole thing because we live in a capitalist society, which is part of the capitalist versus communism, all this fun stuff, and like, it's one of those things that creates and drives innovation, trying to win the game of business, right? Which you want this kind of what you call this enlightened self-interest. You want to be able to do something that benefits humanity and it benefits yourself at the same time. And so you're trying to create this impact with as little damaging effects as possible. So I know they have some oversight committees, and I'm sure there's some weird, creepy things that they've done in the background that they're not talking about. It's like how do we be mindful? And it's a good point. How do we be mindful of the technology and use it to elevate humanity together, while saying, hey, you put in a ton of time. You invested 7 years and millions of dollars to make this amazing tool that can serve humanity. How can you lessen the negative impact while using it to amplify the good, right? And I don't have an answer for it, but it is with every quest starts with a question, and I do think that's a good prompt,
Yeah, and I think we talked about the big social media giants and Facebook and things like that, and I think that's kind of what the point was there, which is these technologies are becoming so powerful. They're in some ways invalidating traditional, nation state power structures. These are global issues. We have global technologies, and we are kind of need to update our model of how we work together as a world. And that's going to be really slow. If anything, it's like slowing down because of all this chaos. Like, it feels like we can't make collective decisions as well as we used to be able to. And at the same time, we've got these global situations, these technologies with global implications. So it's not all fun and smooth sailing. I think there's some really hard work to be done about how to integrate this with society,
Yeah, man. Great power comes great responsibility. So, So yeah, I totally agree, man.
Yeah.
As finish on a Spider-Man quote there. So Jay, this has been awesome, brother. How can people find you?
Just Google my name. There's lots of stuff that comes up, and I have a design firm called Still Ape, And you can look at some of the work we do there in terms of technologies for mindfulness and well-being and compassion. And then if you Google my name, you'll find like my attention activist blog and other stuff. So Google's your friend, but I don't think ChatGPT is up to date. So maybe don't use that
I'm gonna go ChatGPT. The new ChatGPT is actually up to 2021 September now. It was 2020, so we might
yet.
find you now. If you maybe you can try it ChatGPT. Try
I
ChatGPT for Jay and see if he pops up. See if
Yes,
he's
let me know. Let me know if I pop up because I haven't tried that yet.
yeah, we'll find out. All right, brother. It's been an honor and pleasure, my friend. I'll catch you on the other side. All right.
All right, thanks, buddy. Take care.
Take care, man. Peace.